Hey guys, it's Sadie. Before we get started, let me just give a big thank you to Polar Bear Plumbing, Heating and Air for being a sponsor of the Sadie and Friends podcast. And right now they have an amazing deal. Warmer weather, it's starting to get here. Oh, what this past weekend was so great. It was so nice and everybody was outside. It was just great. But you know what's coming soon? Soon we're going to be dealing with the ridiculous heat.
Yeah, it's hot. It is hot. We're finally getting hot.
And it comes before you know it. So get your spring tune-up. It's only $99 and it includes preventative AC maintenance, meaning you get anything fixed or tuned up that you need to before you got to crank it up. Because what happens if you don't get a little thing fixed and then it just completely destroys your whole system? I mean, listen, if you want to save money with energy costs, you want it to be running like a top. And that's what they can do at Polar Bear Plumbing, Heating and Air. They'll come in, they'll change the filters, they'll clean sensors and condensers, and that's only $99. Again, it's the spring tune-up. Polar Bear Plumbing, Heating and Air. Get that appointment in today. It's Polar Bear Plumbing, Heating and Air. PolarBearPHA.com is where you'll find them. Polar Bear Plumbing, Heating and Air, a proud sponsor of the Sadie and Friends podcast.
I'm going to say the thing you're not supposed to say.
Let's talk about marriage.
They have like a 2-second rebound rate and you're back doing the next pain in the ass thing.
Parenting. Oh my gosh.
They have sucked the pretty right out of me. They treat me like it, and I do their laundry. Lucky me.
Sex.
I'm caught between two evils. I generally like to take the one I never tried.
Scary stuff like ghosts. I know it's totally out of left field, but just go with me on this.
Boo, you whore.
Love.
I give you what you need. That's all. I'm talking about taking care of each other the best you can. What's wrong with taking care of a woman? She takes care of you.
Friendships.
We get our necklace says best friends forever.
Actually, you want it to say forever? I don't think you guys will be best friends forever, no offense. But sometimes you grow apart, and maybe she'll find a new best friend. They end up doing everything together.
Oh, that was pretty.
Oh, was it? First time for anything.
You have a very stunning voice. Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening. It's Sadie, and this is Sadie and Friends. And today my friend is Kelly because it is Monday, which means it is Murder Monday. Kelly, would you like to just jump? See, she has the voice of an angel. Do you just want to jump into what we got going today? I'm very excited because last week I was sick, and so I had to play a repeat. And I actually had a couple of people reach out and they're like, I think Kelly's done this story before. And I'm like,
I've heard this.
Really?
One. I know how this ends.
Weird. Yeah. But now I feel much better. So I'm excited to hear what you got today. What do you got?
Well, you got all the out, didn't you? That helps.
Oh my God. I was dying.
So sorry. I'm so sorry. I've been there. I mean, you've been there when I've been there. So luckily I wasn't there when you've been there.
I was. Yeah. Luckily, no one was there. And I was like a goblin. I was like, leave me alone. It's fine. Fine. I'm better now.
I'm glad you're better.
Thank you, Kelly.
This will make you even better. So have you ever thought that somebody really deserves to be murdered?
I don't know if anyone really deserves to be murdered, but maybe like beaten up. Okay. But I won't go as far as murder. Do you think there's people that should be murdered?
Yeah. And I'm going to change your mind on that with this story. So.
Oh my God. Okay. Give it to
me. That's my goal.
Give it to me.
All right. You might have heard this story before because there's like a show about it, I think, a movie, and definitely books. But it's about Ken McElroy. So Ken, he was born in 1934 as the 15th of 16 kids.
See, women were just baby factories back in the day.
Her poor uterus. I mean,
and not even just the uterus, like just everything. Being constantly pregnant for like that long of your life.
Miserable.
I can't believe it.
Birth control is needed.
Yeah, but back then you had babies, so they'd work on the farm.
That's true. You needed help. You needed the free labor. Yeah.
Okay, tell us about Ken.
Okay, so you're probably right. So he was born to poor migrant sharecropping parents. So of all the people that you wish could have gotten birth control, it's 1934 and they didn't have it, but these were the kind of people like sharecropping. So my great grandparents did that. And all that means is like, you're allowed to live on the land and you get to farm it and you get to have some of the groceries you make, the crops. But all you make for money is what you can sell, and then the other people get the rest. The owners do, right? So,
Oh, wow. Yeah. But you're getting a place to live.
right.
And you're getting food, and you get the free will to choose if you want to do it.
True. The free will is huge.
That's a big part of it all. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really hard to get out of. But at the age of 15, this is hilarious. Ken drops out of the 8th grade. And I was like, 15, 8th grade? Wait, first of all, why is he 15 in 8th grade? Like,
yeah, that's true. How old are 8th graders? 13, 14?
13 maybe.
Well, he might have been held back.
He could have been held back a few times. So poor Ken, he drops out. He quickly begins a life of delinquency in, of all places, Skidmore, Missouri, which it just sounds...
It makes me think of Skiddy underwear.
Yeah,
Isn't
right.
that where you went to?
That's totally like Skid Mark, Missouri. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, but so instead of leaving school and finding a job and like a regular kid or even working his parents' farm, he starts hunting raccoons. So it's a big deal. I don't know if that was for food or to sell. Maybe he's making the raccoon hats. Maybe that's a big thing back then. I don't know. It's a weird detail, and it was included in every news report. So I'm like, this must be important. So I put it in everything. So he's like, okay, quit school, become a raccoon hunter. Thank you. I'm on with my life. So his life started becoming filled with little petty crimes because what do? You don't have an education.
It's easy money.
Yeah, you can't live off a raccoon hat, sales. Sales. Who knows? But
I would imagine at that time you probably could have. What was this guy's problem?
I don't know. Maybe he wasn't very good at cleaning them up. You know, he left the guts in there.
Maybe he just sucked at his job.
Yeah. So I don't know. He starts a job for himself as a cattle rustler and a small time thief. And by cattle rustling, I mean stealing other people's cattle and selling them.
Shut up. So he is in the crime life at an early age.
Yeah, he's just like, to hell with this sharecropping business. I'm going to go all in. So his crimes grew increasingly more severe. And over the next 20 years, Ken was the prime suspect in items that would go missing in the community, like grain, gasoline, alcohol, antiques, and all the livestock. Like your cow is missing. It's Ken. Ken.
And everybody knew about Ken?
Yeah, everybody knows about Ken. And these aren't like, to me, the thought was like, these aren't things you can just stuff in your pocket. How do you get a cow across? I guess you get a team of people. I don't know. So the town of Skidmore, it sits in the northwest corner of Missouri, has a population of about 440 people. So, I mean, he's stealing from
people he's going to see on the streets.
Yeah. And so that population was in 1981. I'm not sure what it is now, but maybe even less at this point. So all these people, like you said, they know very well who Ken McElroy is. And he is touted as the town bully. I almost said school bully. He probably was that too. He is a very large man. Like we're talking over 6 feet and about 270 to 300 pounds. So
so maybe people just let him take things because they were afraid.
Yeah.
You think so?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. He is not a nice guy. He is scary. So they describe him as this guy with bushy sideburns and cold eyes.
Oh,
I know. I don't know what that really means, but if I ever see it, I'll know, I'm sure. So he carried a gun and plenty of money with him because he stole it from everyone and he didn't work. And he was just as mean as he looked, like you were saying. So he didn't only steal items. He somehow stole hearts as well. He had 4 wives over time.
He was in polygamy?
I'm not sure if he ever quite overlapped them, but he definitely had 4. Mm-hmm. And he had more than 10 children.
Damn.
I know.
Is raccoon hunting going to take care of all those children's?
No, I'm guessing he didn't either. By the sounds of this guy, he was not a helpful
stand-up guy.
Yeah, not so good.
Yeah.
So at one point, he's married to his wife named Alice, and he meets this girl named Trina McLeod. Now, Trina McLeod, she is only 12, and she's in the 8th grade.
Okay, so she's clearly smarter than him. And also, this is taking an incredibly dark turn.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on with this little girl?
I know. He's interested in a 12-year-old. So keep that in mind. He couldn't help himself when it came to young girls. I wrote in my notes, he's probably impressed that she was 12 and in the 8th grade.
Yeah, exactly.
That went through my mind like, wow, you must be so smart. So he's not known for his fidelity, obviously, and known for a lot of things, everything bad, nothing good. He had many affairs during his marriages, both to Alice and his first wife, Sharon. And when they would bring up the issue of cheating, he would beat and torture them into submission.
See, what a jerk.
He's a dick. So they're like, I'm never going to bring that up again. Awful. So when one of them would go into town with bruises or split lips or even broken bones, townspeople are like, yeah, I can guess how they probably got those from Ken.
But
Everybody
it was like back in that era, nobody would say anything. It was like just, that's like, none of our business.
Like, your wife must have gotten out of line.
Yeah. And you are so good at accents. We've covered this before. That is your forte.
I thought we covered that they were really bad, but okay. We'll go with good today.
Better.
Oh, good. I've been practicing. So as for 12-year-old Trina, this is disgusting. Ken would follow her bus. Like, she's getting on the bus to school. He would follow the bus in his pickup truck. And when he'd catch up to the bus, he'd sit there and honk his horn, drive up to the driver's side window to get the bus driver to pull over. And when he would finally pull over, he would demand the door be opened and that he lets Trina out. So the bus driver, for the safety of himself and the other kids, he would comply because Ken carried a gun and he was a dick. And I don't know if this town didn't have an actual police force. Probably not. I mean, it's so tiny.
But you know, where's the parents of this little girl?
I know. I think everybody is so scared shitless. And so he gets her off the bus and takes her, basically just kidnaps her.
Wow.
Yeah. So sorry, everybody, but trigger warnings. He statutorily rapes Trina repeatedly, and probably not just statutorily, like forcefully. So she became pregnant when she was 14. And I know. And she dropped out of the 9th grade. So by this time in life, Ken had continuously gotten away with all of his crimes. I mean, he had been arrested many times and had a lot of criminal charges, but conviction or punishment never really seemed to befall him. He just was able to get out of it all.
How are some people like that? And then you hear about people who have never broken the law and they like get a ticket and then they end up having to go to court and then they had to, and it's just snowballs.
It
and
just
you're like,
gets worse. Yeah. I know. I'm one of those people. Anytime I get pulled over, I get a ticket. I've never gotten a warning. And all these people are like, yeah, I just got a warning. I'm like, what? Why am I the convict? I don't know. But this guy was one of those, could get away with anything. And from what I read, it doesn't seem like he's slick, but he very much relied on witness intimidation to get out of trouble.
Okay.
Yeah.
There it is.
And there it is. So Ken tells his wife, Alice, Alice, I got this little girl pregnant, so she's going to come live with us. So, hey, babe, I got another babe. We're all adding to the babes.
But he beats them so badly that
she's just like,
she's probably scared.
Yeah. Yeah. So what can you do? And Trina's parents, they actually resisted. They didn't want to let her go. They're upset. They're scared of him. They know she's been raped by this dude. So they resist, and Ken burns down their house.
No.
But even worse, he shot their dog. What? I know, what a fucker. So they finally give up and let her go with him. I mean, now they have no place to live. They have other children. I'm telling you.
That's awful. So they're essentially losing a child to this horrible, scary person.
And that it can work. I know. So Trina has no other choice but to go live with him. I mean, she's pregnant. And just 16 days after giving birth, Trina and Alice together, so Ken's wife and Trina, ran to Trina's parents' house. They got a new house, apparently, and tried to escape. I mean, it's bad for both of them. They wanted to take care of this baby and get away. Alice isn't pissed at Trina. She knows Ken's this dickhead,
he takes what he
forceful
wants.
rapist. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Ken is easily, I mean, it's such a small town. He knows where everybody is. He's easily able to track them down. So he finds them and beats them both severely and brings them back to his house.
Stop.
I know. So then he goes back to Trina's family home when the parents are away and once again shot their other or possibly new dog. Maybe the same dog lived. I don't know. Shot it down again and burned their house down again.
These people cannot catch a break.
No, this motherfucker.
And it's like they probably want to protect their daughter, I would imagine. And this guy's a psycho.
And nobody will do anything about it. Like he gets arrested, but he keeps getting away. So Trina had to be hospitalized because her injuries were so bad after the beatings. And the doctor was so shocked by the beatings that he had called family services. And she and her baby were taken into foster custody. So you think, oh, thank God she's safe, right?
And she was taken because she's also a child.
Right. So she's taken into foster care.
Hey, guys, breaking in here just really quick. Give me one quick second to talk about show sponsor Christiana Salon Spa. We are coming up, guys, at the end of the school year. I know that we're almost to spring break and we still got some time left. You know how fast that's going to go? It goes so fast, and then summer is here. And then you know what's going to happen? Then you got the kids home all day long, and that could be really stressful. Maybe so stressful you break out in pimples everywhere. I mean, not only are you exhausted and tired of doing crafts and playing with Play-Doh, but now you got pimples everywhere. I mean, why not take a break and go see my friends at Christiana Salon Spa? Get a nice facial, maybe a hot stone massage. Hand the kids over to your husband and say, I'm out of here. Or vice versa. They also, I don't want to say they service men because that sounds weird, but they also have treatments for men as well. So why not go on to ChristianaSalonSpa.com? Christiana Salon Spa, a proud sponsor of the Sadie and Friends podcast.
So people describe him as very cunning. He knew which people were vulnerable and who he could pick on. So, and he always followed through on his threats, just enough. I mean, obviously burning down houses that people would know to be afraid of him. So he becomes kind of legendary in this reputation, and it kind of becomes bigger than it actually was. Like the stories would spread around and become bigger and bigger when they spread to the next person, kind of like the game of telephone where it gets a little more jacked up. Although, he is a dick. So now it's June of 1973. Ken was indicted for arson, assault, and statutory rape. He's arrested and eventually released on $2,500 bail. I know. Just let him go again because he's not in danger.
Oh, that's insane.
Freaking ridiculous. But within a day of making bail, Ken goes looking for Trina. He is not going to let her go. When he finds out where she's staying, he used his very successful tactic of intimidation. So he would sit outside this foster family's house. He would brandish his shotgun and stare at the home for hours, like just intimidating them.
How does he not get picked up again?
Yeah. And like, I don't know, maybe this was before, what is it? When you
like a restraining order?
Yeah, restraining order. My brain. Sorry, I have a cold, so I can't think very well. I know. So yeah, I don't know if it was before that. Not that they're very effective in some cases anyway, but he told the foster family, okay, I know where your biological daughter goes to school and what bus route she takes. So if you don't give Trina back, I'm going to go get her, and then I'm going to trade your girl for my girl. So obviously they're scared shitless. They know he'll go through with it.
He'll do it.
And Ken also hires Richard McFadden. He's this well-known and well-respected criminal defense attorney from the Kansas City area. So this lawyer creates delay after delay to prevent the case from going to trial. So that was perfect for Ken because time is all he needs. I mean, can intimidate forever. Eventually, his tactics work on the foster home people. And Trina gets tired of being at the foster house with all the rules she has to follow. But I wonder if it was more like she felt guilty for the stress that was being put on that foster family because of her and this.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So she runs back to Ken. The charges are still looming over him, and Ken decides he needs to act fast. So he divorces Alice, and then he drives Trina to Kansas and marries her to avoid being convicted for the statutory rape charge.
Oh, this poor girl. Oh, that's awful. Someone needs to kill him. You're right, Kelly. Someone needs to kill him.
I'm telling you, see, I already convinced you, and we're not over. So the charges against him would also be dropped as the case is impossible to prove without Alice or Trina testifying. And they both refuse to do that because they know they'd probably get killed by Ken, if not beaten or tortured.
Right.
But Ken didn't just terrorize those close to him. So he spread the wealth of his abuse to the community as well. He's a giver, this guy. He's a giver. So Romaine Henry, he's this Skidmore resident, and he's a farmer. He heard from one of his workers that someone was on his property shooting a gun. Bang, bang. It's just out there. I don't know. So Romaine, he goes and drives down the gravel road that goes against his property, comes across a person he recognizes immediately. It's Ken McElroy. So as the truck approached, Ken turns his shotgun towards the truck. So Henry stops the truck, opens the passenger window to talk to Ken, and Ken is just like, "You son of a bitch."
What?
And I know. Romaine's like, "What?" He says, "You've been at my house in a white Pontiac. You're a dirty son of a bitch." And Romaine's like, "I don't even own a car like that. I don't know what you're talking about." "Ken, you're a lying son of a bitch." And he pulls the trigger on his shotgun.
No.
The shot runs through Romaine's stomach, peeling off the right side of his body. I mean, it's a shotgun. So
how's he going to get out of this one?
Right. Oof. Romaine's losing consciousness. His entrails are falling onto his lap. Like, this guy's trying to hold himself together. It's bad.
And it's also not at a time where they had, life-saving measures. By that time, had they discovered that you should wash your hands before doing surgery, or are we not there yet in history?
We're in the 70s, so maybe they knew to wash their hands.
Oh, we're in the 70s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, now we're in the 70s. Yeah.
We're okay.
But the last thing Romaine sees before passing out is Ken walking back to his truck, pulling out a cigarette from his shirt pocket and lighting it casually, like one would do as an afterthought after getting a good meal. Like, yep, took care of that. Then he gets in his truck and drives away. By some miracle, Romaine Henry lives. However,
that's a miracle.
A miracle. I mean, with his entrails hanging out, someone must have come and checked and found him and took him to the hospital. But he's still not going to escape Ken's torment. Ken stopped him and threatened him mercilessly because Romaine had pressed charges against Ken for nearly killing him. So Ken was like, "Your mother, you MFer, I'm coming after you. How dare you say that?" So the case drags on without a court date. And Romaine claims that Ken parked outside of his home at least 100 times before the trial. And that is illegal in itself. You can't intimidate witnesses.
This guy is awful.
He's horrible. He's the biggest bully ever. So Romaine, he's not going to back down so easily as others, though. He appeared at trial and he testified against Ken in the assault and attempt to kill. However, Ken was once again able to walk away from justice.
Are you serious right now?
Makes me so frustrated. What is happening in Missouri? I don't know.
In Skidmark, Missouri, you can get away with anything.
You can get away with almost murder. So they appear at trial. He testifies against Ken. And at the trial, friends with Ken testified, "Oh no, Ken was totally with us that day, far, far away in another part of the county. So there's no way he could have been the culprit." I'm sure he bullied these dudes into
totally.
Yeah, perjuring. Yeah. "I just want to get out of this. You guys better say this or I'm going to kill you."
Yeah.
So So during the trial, Romaine's own petty criminal conviction was discovered from 30 years ago. It's probably like he stole a candy bar or something. I don't know. Ken's acquitted. Oh, I know. So at this point, Ken had menaced the townspeople of Skidmore for like over a decade, and it seemed like he would just continue to get away with it. He had faced felony charges 21 times without any convictions. That's got to be a record.
That's like unreal.
Yeah. He had been charged with arson, assault, cattle rustling, child molestation, and statutory rape. I mean, these aren't small things. Anybody should go to jail for these things.
For even one, right. So his lawyer recalled that he typically defended Ken in 3 to 4 felonies a year on average. Yeah. Often witnesses to the crimes, they would change their mind about testifying before the trials began. And if any of the cases did make it to trial, the common thing for a juror was to open their mailbox and find a rattlesnake in there, which Ken would do to get them out of being a juror. And he wouldn't get in trouble for that?
I guess not. Well, they could prove it was him.
Yeah, that's true.
But the mere mention of his name was enough to cause anxiety in the locals. Parents would see him on the street and they would steer their daughters to the opposite side of the street if they noticed him in town. I mean, it was that bad. He's just horrifying. So now we're up to 1980. One of Ken's kids, he's got those at least 10.
Yeah.
His kid gets into an argument with a clerk at a grocery store owned by this 70-year-old man named Ernest Bowenkamp. He goes by Bo. And his wife, Lois. So allegedly, Ken's kid tried to steal some candy. I'm guessing he probably really did. His dad gets away with everything. Mm-hmm. But Ken was so pissed that this kid got in trouble for stealing something that he would leer at this couple, that Ernest and Lois, from his pickup outside their house, sometimes firing his gun into the air just to scare them. I mean, they're in their 70s. They're these sweet little couple.
Oh, yeah, this guy sucks. This guy needs to die.
He needs to die. It's like Earl Needs to Die, that song from the Dixie.
It does, from the Dixie Chicks, yeah.
Eventually, Ken came upon 70-year-old Bo. Keep in mind, this isn't a small guy. So Bo is at the loading dock behind his store, this Ernest Bowenkamp guy. Ken came in with his shotgun in hand, like he always did. And during a confrontation he starts with Bo, Ken shot Bo in the neck. Oh, somehow though, Bo survives. So I don't know if Ken's a shitty shot or what, or these people are just really tough at Skidmore, but somehow he survives and Ken is arrested. So David Baird, he's this newly appointed prosecuting attorney for Nottoway, which I think is the county they're in. Nottoway to Skidmark. Weird shit. But
who's naming it?
No, he got the first ever conviction against Ken for assault. It's huge. But somehow Ken's still released on bond.
Oh my God. I've never heard of anything like this, honestly.
It's freaking insane. So of course he just continues his hatred and harassment of the Bowenkamps and anybody who sympathizes with him. Like, you try to be friends with these people, you're going to get in trouble too from Ken.
Yeah.
So in the months before the trial, the Bowenkamps, they go to bed scared to death that their last breath is that night, every night, like every freaking night. They even slept in shifts with one family member keeping an eye out on the street. And they're little old people. How dare him? There were many times that Bo couldn't go out and mow or even water because Ken would just be sitting there outside his house with his gun.
What else I take it Ken doesn't have a job?
No, he just steals everything. He doesn't need a job. Or he probably intimidates it out of people, like, give me all your money. And they're like, okay.
Yeah, that's true. That I don't see Ken holding down a 9-to-5.
No, I don't either. Oh, and get this. This is even better. Ken would pay local kids for information about who was where in town. So the Bowenkamps are like, well, okay, we're going to have to do the same tactic. And they use their own network of informants. And so everybody's got these kids running around as informants in the town. One time, there's this owner of the D&G Tavern, so the D&G, she sent her kids to the grocery store for paper towels, and that was code for the Bowen camps, meaning they should call the police because Ken is in town causing trouble. So,
okay.
So the kids are constantly getting paper towels. I need another roll of paper towels, kids. Kids have no clue what's going on, what they're doing. They're just like, yeah, I'll go get some towels. So Ken showed up at the local bar, this D&G Tavern, one day with an M1 Garand rifle or Garand. I don't know. It had a bayonet attached. So it makes me think of, like Civil War type shit. But apparently it was standard issue for World War II. But it's not World War II, and he's in a freaking bar. He comes in spouting threats about his graphic plans for Bowen Camp and that he would suffer and die for having defied him. Defied him what? That is saying his kid took a candy bar. But several bystanders at the bar began discussing what they could legally do to prevent Ken from harming Bo or anyone else anymore. And they go to the sheriff. And you know what the sheriff suggested?
Killing him?
No, a neighborhood watch. That'll solve it. That'll do it.
Get rid of him. Just get rid of the guy.
I know. And to make it worse, Ken's good luck with the law persists, and his appeal hearing is delayed with the whole Bowen camp thing, with shooting Bo in the neck. So the town marshal, he tries to go talk to Ken about his harassment. Like, please, Ken, just quit being a dick.
If you wouldn't mind stopping shooting people.
But instead of stopping, Ken pulls a gun on the marshal.
This guy is out of control.
He's out of control. But the marshal, instead of like arresting him and pulling his own gun, he quits his job and leaves.
He leaves town?
I am out.
This guy legit has a chokehold on Skidmark.
Everyone. He's just that scary. A chokehold on Skidmark, yes. So once again, the townspeople, they take their complaints to the sheriffs because, weirdly, having a neighborhood watch didn't work. I don't know. So the sheriff's frustrated. He just tells them, you know what? If you got to shoot him, let us know and we'll come down and get him before he starts stinking.
Ooh.
So do what you got to do, basically.
And there was probably quite the line of people.
I know. They're like, hold my beer. So on the morning of July 10th of 1981, townspeople met at the Legion Hall in the center of town with the sheriff again. They're discussing the problems with Ken and how to protect themselves. I mean, this is the whole town, like 440 people, the whole town. And they're like, we cannot deal with this asshole anymore. During the meeting, Ken's goes to the D&G Tavern. He brings Trina along with him this time, this 14-year-old bride, to the bar.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So he's drinking there. He's like, where is everybody? The whole town's gone. But while he's there, word gets back to the men at Legion Hall that Ken's in town. So the sheriff's like, no, don't get into confrontation with Ken. It's like, let's keep up with this neighborhood watch program. It's not working. But soon he's like, you know what? I should probably just leave. So the sheriff just leaves. He's like, I don't want to be a part of any of this. He leaves in his cruiser. People go to the tavern and en masse, like everybody at once goes to the tavern. So the angry crowd is gathered at the tavern. It becomes such a large crowd that the bar is so filled with people. It's jam packed and nobody can even move, which I can just imagine. So Ken's there. He's like, wow, it suddenly got really popular in here. He buys a 6-pack of beer and leaves the bar, gets in his pickup. Suddenly, shots ring out. But instead of Ken being the shooter this time somebody else shot Ken. He was hit. Yes. Finally, he was hit twice. Once by a 30-30 Winchester rifle and once by a .22 caliber rifle. So that means there was at least 2 shooters. Trina's in the truck with them, but she's not struck.
Oh, thank God.
I know. In all, 46 potential witnesses were at the scene and witnessed the shooting, but not one person called for an ambulance. Only Trina said she could identify a shooter, but with every other witness conveniently was unable to name a shooter or claim they didn't see any guns fire.
It's weird that Trina is like a ride or die for this dude.
I think she had been brainwashed so badly. But so troopers arrive back in town. The streets are empty and silent except for the rumbling engine of Ken's truck. His foot had fallen on the accelerator when he was shot, causing the engine to run at full power, and No one bothered to shut it off. Nobody called for an
He
ambulance.
drove
not even
out
Trina.
of town. Oh,
Still had it in
no.
park. It was just sitting there and he's dead. Trina didn't even call for an ambulance. After his death, the town is like, finally
Yeah.
done. Peace. Everything drifts over the community. Bowen camps feel like they can finally start living again. The Bowen camp's daughter said it wasn't the kind of justice they should have gotten, but
No, that's probably the ultimate
that's what I
justice.
thought. I was like, you know what? It was probably great. So
Yeah.
investigators found shell casings from 2 weapons, but the guns are never reported as found, or they weren't found at all. And in spite of a massive investigation, both by local police, even the FBI came in, and the media all came in with a frenzy, not one person in Skidmore ever confessed of killing or implicated anyone else in it, except for Trina. So an investigation didn't lead to any charges, and the DA didn't press charges, which is so amazing. So the residents, in their usual plain-spoken manner, put the matter in simple terms. They said, Ken needed killing, like a gangrene leg needs to be removed to save the rest of the body. So
I mean, and that's not wrong at all.
I know. So in interviews, Trina had said that she told the grand jury who had done it, but the panel didn't return an indictment. The prosecutor said, you know what, I didn't press any charges because you can't take cases to trial just to see what might happen. And they didn't have enough evidence to go to trial. So people are like, we finally saved the freaking town, and never said a word. Nobody said a word. It's still silent to this day as to who did that.
Who did it?
Yeah.
Who was the hero of the town?
Yep. And nobody would say a word. But Trina, years later, afterwards, she filed a $6 million wrongful death suit against the town and several other individuals, including the local rancher Del Clement, who she identified as one of the shooters. But the suit was settled out of court for a measly $17,600 without anyone admitting wrongdoing. So Trina went on her merry way. She remarried, went on to live a pretty normal life, and died of cancer at the age of 55.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, Ken's murder and the silence of the townspeople was all written up all around America. And in 1988, Harry McLean wrote the true crime book called In Broad Daylight about the case, which had won him an award. And the book was made into a TV movie by the same name. So
what is it called? I'm going to write it down.
It's called In Broad Daylight.
Okay.
Yeah. It's got Brian Dennehy, Chris Cooper, and Marcia Gay Harden. I know Brian Dennehy.
I love Brian Dennehy.
I know. You can't get better than that.
The best.
So this is how a town saved itself from a bully. And that was like the only case I found that, well, other than maybe serial killers, that someone deserves to be murdered. Yeah.
This guy needed to be taken care of only because he was hurting so many people.
He was such an asshole and kept getting away with it. It would just be so angering. But I love that the whole town came together as one unit and was like, we're taking care of this shit once and for all.
And they all kind of took care of each other.
They did.
I like that.
Yeah. Yep.
That story this week made me feel really fuzzy inside, Kelly.
You're welcome. I thought we should do a happy version of murder.
Thank you. Yeah, I've never been so happy about a murder before, but that makes me it's a satisfying ending.
It is.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a good story.
It's Kelly. She has a podcast. It's called ODFM. Start from episode 1. You will not be disappointed. And she's got quite a few of them banked. So go check out her podcast wherever you found this podcast. And Kelly, we'll see you next Monday.
See you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye, friends.
Bye. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Sadie and Friends. I feel so lucky that I get to do this, and I get to do it because of sponsors, and those sponsors pay me, and then I get to do this for a job. How amazing is that? But I want you to know that I'm very picky about who I talk about. I love small business owners, like let's say Garage Door Service and Sales. Tony and Patrice, they've been running that joint for decades. Family owned and operated, locally owned and operated, handed down from generations. I probably did endorsements for them on the radio for well over a decade, almost the entire time I had a radio career. And now I'm podcasting, and they are so great to work with still. So pick up the phone and give them a call today. Maybe you got a broken spring. Maybe you want better technology. You want a more secure home. You're going to find all the perks at GarageDoorServiceandSales.com. So pick up the phone, go online, see what they have to offer. You won't be disappointed. And they're just wonderful people. It's Garage Door Service and Sales, a proud sponsor of the Sadie and Friends podcast.